Tomato sauce is a scam, and I'm going to tell you all about it. What you're about to discover is not just about a simple vegetable. It's a story about how our globalized world functions on lies, the winners, the losers, the men and women who feed the world without ever seeing the fruit of their labor.
Una caduta a terra, appena mi ha alzato la testa a me, ho visto mamma di caduta a terra. Appena che ho vicinato a lui, ho ascoltato.
This video is sponsored by me, so like and subscribe. Back to the video. Once upon a time, there was a red fruit known only to the people of South America. Brought back to Europe, it was planted in the garden of the kings of Spain, but it was feared to be toxic. In the 19th century, the Italians embraced it and put it to good use. Fast forward to me growing up in Ghana, where jollof rice is in our DNA. We even went to wars to defend our jollof rice. That's how important jollof is to us.
Now, the topic of jollof is one of the most sensitive topics in this part of the world, but I have traveled many countries. So, Malam Abubakar, I'm very sorry to say something different from what you said regarding jollof. The jollof of Ghana is the best jollof.
The secret behind delicious meals in this part of Africa, in terms of vegetables, the tomato is king. It accounts for 1/3 of all vegetable expenditure. But the local market is collapsing in favor of sources from China and Italy. But a white substance is added to these tomato sauces in large quantities. This substance does not appear anywhere on the labels.
我知道，你明白这意思？没事，我说您不方便说的话，你就不说，没关系。对，因为他在问，我就只是翻译出来，因为我不知道哪。现在就是说，你就是说，我加这些辅料最好是别说。
So I decided to find out what is actually added to these tomato sauces that make manufacturers go through all the trouble to hide it from you. But what I found out left me in shock in the shadowy world of the tomato paste industry, where the influence of the mafia and the truth is hidden in plain sight. Tomato paste can be found in almost every kitchen worldwide, especially Africa, used in everything from stews to soups, and most importantly, jollof. Africans love tomato paste. It's cheaper than fresh tomatoes, but the fact that you don't need a fridge to store it made all the difference on a continent where most people don't have electricity. In the last decade, the demand for tomato sauces keeps rising, and so does the profit of the manufacturers. The industry is massive, with billions of dollars in annual revenue. It was mainly dominated by Italian companies until the Chinese decided to get in on the action as well. Soon, Chinese sauces flooded the market.
Hi! Don't worry, Mama. Tasty Tom.
Globalization is changing eating habits.
Absolutely delicious.
The secret behind delicious meals.
They were cheaper than the European brands. And if you know Africans, then you know that we love cheap stuff. So in an effort to compete with the Chinese companies, Italian companies started adding flour made from soybeans to their tomato sauces. It was a method of lowering manufacturing costs, which helped them reduce the price of their products. But it also reduced the quality significantly. Predictably, the Chinese also started adding flour. A price war has begun. It takes 6 kilos of tomatoes to make 1 kilo of this paste. It's normally a higher price when it's pure tomato paste, but then they add fiber, color, and flour made from soybeans. According to my information, some tomato paste contains up to 55% additives. These additives are way cheaper than tomatoes, increasing their profits in the process. The entire production and distribution chain is part of this fraud. It doesn't appear anywhere on the label, and only the consumer is fooled. By buying these sauces rather than fresh tomatoes from our farms, we weaken local farmers. Growing tomatoes used to offer a future to entire families. Their tomatoes were processed in local factories and were sold in the market. But under pressure from international institutions, imports have overwhelmed the markets, which has been disastrous for farmers and local factories. Since nobody buys their tomatoes and the state does not help, Some of them tried their luck in Europe. Ironically, they picked tomatoes. You see, in the early 20th century in southern Italy, where most of the tomatoes is grown, the mafia began to infiltrate various industries, and the tomato paste industry is no exception. Once the mafia infiltrated the tomato paste industry, they started exploiting labor within the industry. As early as 5 o'clock in the morning, hundreds of men head for the fields. They come from Africa, India, Romania, and their journeys ended here. To survive, they have no choice but to pick the tomatoes of southern Italy. They are paid an average of 20 euros for a day's work under the blazing sun.
Anche quando mi entra in un supermercato che mi riguarda una bottiglia di pomodori, la persona che comprano una scatola o una bottiglia di pomodori non sapevano già che dentro quella bottiglia c'è una storia di schiavitù, ci sono persone che sono morti dentro il cambio di raccolta. E la cosa più terribile che io ho vissuto un ragazzo del mio paese, si chiama Muhammad, era morto mentre stava raccogliendo il pomodoro a fianco a me. A fianco a me una persona che sta raccogliendo il pomodoro e ci sono gradi 40, senza acqua, molto sforzo. Appena urlano, gridano ragazzi, uno è caduto a terra, appena mi ha alzato la testa a me ho visto Muhammad caduto a terra. Appena che ho vicinato a lui ho ascoltato altri che dicono lui è già morto, non possiamo fare un altro.
As the mafia's grip on the industry grew, the battle for control of the tomato paste industry erupted into violent conflicts known as the Tomato Wars. Rival mafia families fought for supremacy, leaving a trail of bloodshed. Today, three great powers are in a fierce competition: the United States, China, and Italy. In the war of Red Gold, there are no rules. Even the least ethical moves are permitted. In the last 20 years, China has also become a superpower of the tomato industry. Now almost everybody is eating Chinese sauces. Initially, the Chinese didn't care at all about tomato sauce, but then the Italians started buying their cheap tomato sauce and then changed it into a sauce that was made in Italy. The recipe is simple. Take Chinese tomato paste, dilute it in a little water, add a pinch of salt, and you are done. These are then exported to Africa and the Middle East without anybody noticing. But then the Chinese decided to take on the Italians with Chinese-made sauces.
First time he has agreed to be interviewed in front of a foreign camera. Liu Yi, also known as General Yu, a former leader of the Bing Tuan. As explained in this official video, the Bing Tuan is a military-industrial organization founded in 1954 on the order of Mao and composed of former army soldiers. Its mission is to populate, control, and develop the region of Xinjiang to avoid any rebellion of the Uyghur people. In reality, General Liu never led a fighting unit. But under his command, battalions of Chinese workers were sent into the commercial war of the tomato.
West Africa, a region which has the fastest growing tomato consumption in the world, it also reflects a reality that the African continent is becoming the next big consumer market. Chinese manufacturers are moving a lot of their factories to Africa to benefit from cheaper labor. African workers are paid 4 times less than Chinese workers doing the same job. People sacrifice their youth, numb their spirits, and torture their bodies to produce the greatest agricultural wealth the world has ever known. And yet, these same men, women, and children often do not have enough food. You now understand where your favorite sauce comes from. Tomato sauce will never taste the same for me again. It has the smell of modern slavery and the color of migrants' blood from all over the world. It has the bitter taste of economic forces that concentrate profits in the pockets of a few. Every year, world demand grows by 3%, and it will even grow faster when the Chinese start to eat tomato sauce.